Hi there, my name is Kaylee.
My name is Shay, and this is Willow.
And we're tackling some big debt
in the Big Apple.
Hello, everyone. We are here in our bedroom.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah.
We are going to be getting ready for our trip to California because we have not left yet. By the time you see this, we're actually on our way back. But we got a lot of questions for our Q&A video, and we didn't have a great idea for what to do on this Tuesday video, so we thought we'd multitask. Shay is going to be packing.
Yeah.
I'll try to adjust this angle a little bit so you can do both. But we've got like 12-ish questions, and that felt like substantial enough for a video, right?
Yeah, it did.
So let's go through. Welcome to our first Q&A. I think we'll do these every so often.
Yeah.
Just whenever.
Yeah.
You know, I kept track of the questions. They didn't all come all at once. I kept track of them on like a little Google Doc. And so these are the ones we've got right now.
Yeah.
So thanks for asking questions, friends.
Yeah.
Section 1. So if you're not interested in any of these sections, I'm going to try to figure out how to do those little YouTube chapter things.
I'll show you how to do it.
Oh, Shay's going to teach me how to do it. So these are going to be the sections.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got relationship questions, which is just questions about us in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
A couple questions on living in New York City.
Yeah.
Some that are just kind of fun little random questions. Then there's our budgeting in general questions, just questions about general budgeting content, and then a few specific things about how to or what something is specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for that last section we'll go over, we'll be back on my computer so I can actually show you the things that we do. But in the meantime,
Kaylee had all morning to pack, and I was at work.
So Shay's going to pack, and I'm going to get us set up for these little questions. All right. Feel free to start packing.
I will.
Section 1 is us and our relationship.
Yeah.
So we actually got this one twice from Angel and Michelle.
Yes.
And that is, how did you two meet?
We met on Hinge.
Yeah, I wish there was a better story.
Yeah.
We met on Hinge.
Yeah.
The dating app Hinge. It's actually funny, we met on New York City Hinge, and neither one of us was in New York City physically at the time that we matched with each other.
No.
Shay was in Connecticut working on a show.
I was.
And I was in California visiting my family.
Yeah.
And we matched on the internet. And we texted for like 2 full weeks before we actually got to hang out.
We had to talk for a while because we were out of the area.
Yeah, so by the time we went on our first date, we already knew we liked each other.
Yeah. Well, I knew at the very least I didn't dislike you.
Yeah, hey.
That you were nice to make conversation with.
That's fair. Hinge, if you're looking for anybody to do a commercial or anything, it's working out quite well. Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
This one's from Libby, and it's, where did you go on your first date?
We went many places on our first date.
Yeah, our first date was 48 hours long. Yeah. Like I said, we've been talking for like weeks. Like for 2 full weeks, we were texting every day, all night, all the time. We were talking so much.
Yeah.
She was obsessed with me.
And
we...
so obsessed with me.
So by the time we actually finally went on a date...
There was much chemistry.
There was much chemistry.
Established.
It went well. So we met up on the corner of 127th and St. Nicholas. Yeah. If anyone knows the area, you know, not very romantic. And then Shay was actually just coming back from that show in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So I met up with her on the corner where she like got dropped off out of a van. Mm-hmm. And then I ordered an Uber to take us to her apartment in Queens, which is actually this apartment where we are right now.
Yeah.
And then we dropped all her stuff off. We went to
a bar.
We went to just a bar down the street.
Yeah.
And
well, it was a nice little gastro pub.
Yeah, it's a pub. We went to a pub down the street, and then we were chatting, and then I stayed over. Yeah. And then the next morning, did we get breakfast?
Oh, yeah.
The next morning, we went to a diner that we also still really love. Mm-hmm. And then we went up to my apartment, or we headed up from Queens to Washington Heights, and we went to my favorite restaurant still to this day.
Yes.
And then she went up to my apartment and met Harvey for the first time. Yeah. And then she stayed the night. The next day, we ordered bagels, I think. Yep. And then we went to
Bethesda Fountain.
Then we went to the Bethesda Fountain, and we walked around Central Park. And then she finally had plans that didn't involve me, and so then our date finally ended. Yeah. And that was our first date. Yeah. That was 2 days long.
It was very involved.
It was very involved. We had a good time.
We did. We had a great time.
This one's from Michelle, and it's, what is your proposal story? And I put this one here because I think it's a great segue. Yes. From that first date, because we got engaged at that same spot at Bethesda Fountain in Central Park. Yep. Something I've always heard said about proposals is that I say when and where the proposal is should be the surprise. The proposal should not be a surprise.
Yeah.
So Shay knew that I wanted to ask her to marry me, and I also knew that it was important to her that she be like prepared for that.
Yeah. I still cried so much.
Yeah. But so we had a series of dates that were set up and planned in advance, and she knew that on one of those dates we would be getting engaged. She just didn't know which one.
Yeah.
So we went to Grand Banks, which is an oyster bar on a boat on the river, which was rad. What else did we do?
We went to Bethesda Fountain.
Well, we went to Bethesda Fountain, which is
we went to our favorite restaurant in the whole world.
What was the one we ended up blowing off?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Catch.
Ah.
So yeah, we had 3 meals and a walk in the park planned. And I think I kind of spoiled it because the day when we were getting ready for the walk in the park date, I was like really nervous and like dropping stuff and falling all over myself. And so Shay kind of knew.
You didn't spoil it. I was ready because I wanted to make sure that Kaylee also felt, you know, loved and attended to and cared for, and like she had, you know, also got a special moment. So I bought her a ring, and I was like, I gotta be ready for whenever she wants to propose to me.
Did you bring it on that first date to Grand Banks?
I did.
Wow.
I did. I had the ring with me at Grand Banks.
I didn't bring it with you. I didn't bring it with us.
No. You would have proposed.
I would have, because it was so pretty. Such a good spot.
Yeah.
But no, so I proposed in that same spot because at the end of that first date, you know, we had a really wonderful conversation walking around the park about just like how much we already really liked each other and kind of what we were looking for in a relationship. And I just asked if she remembered all those things that we said, and then she started immediately crying. And then I proposed, and then I was down on one knee holding the ring in front of her, and she didn't say yes. She looked me in my eyes and looked at the ring and said, "It's so pretty." And then said yes. And then she, after a moment of crying and kissing and loving, she remembered that she also had a ring with her, and then she got down on one knee also, and it was really lovely.
I did.
And our photographer was so happy.
Yeah.
And nobody was there except for us and our photographer and all of the people who were also there, but nobody that we knew.
Yeah.
It was just us.
It was just us and basically the entire
graduating class of FIT.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we ended, and our photographer was like, "Okay, we're done. Goodbye," and then left, and then we just had a wonderful walk through the park, and then it started to rain, which was actually really lovely.
It was very romantic.
And then we just came home, and we got Indian food, and we got 2 bottles of wine.
Talk about going somewhere, but I was wearing heels.
And Shay's feet got blisters.
And the rain partnered with me having to walk uphill out of Central Park in my heels in the rain caused me to get really bad blisters. So I was like, let's just go home and order our favorite takeout.
Yeah, so we ordered Indian food, and we got 2 bottles of sparkling wine, and I think we also got ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
We got Van Leeuwen ice cream because we're big fans, as YNAB knows.
Yes.
And that's how we celebrated. And honestly, I would not change a single thing about it except for your blisters.
Yeah, it was perfect.
I love you.
I think it was very appropriate for us. I love you too.
Next section. Living in New York City.
Yes.
All right, this one was from Elizabeth, actually on another video, and I just said, hey, I'm going to throw this in the Q&A too.
Yeah.
We were talking about my brother, who is a barista, and he also lives in New York, and she asked, how do you and your brother, who's a barista, afford to live in New York City when the cost of living is so high? And I think that's a super fair question, and a question that every single person who doesn't live in New York City has.
Yes.
Because all you ever hear about is how high the cost of living is and how crazy it is and all these things. And every single time I go home to California, I think about the fact that my cost of living, the expenses that I spend every single month, would be about the same if I lived in my hometown in California.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, California, yes, but it's Bakersfield, California, so it's like one of the lower cost of living areas in the state. Same as if we lived, near where Shay's parents live in Connecticut. Like, having a car and the expenses that go along with having a car, it is about the same amount, especially with the two of us, as the more rent that I pay to live in New York.
Yeah. I would also say that this was my experience when I was living on $23,000 a year in New York City. In general, the cost of living in New York is much higher, but if you know where to look, you have options that are very often comparable to lower cost of living areas.
We do pay $22.50 in rent.
Yeah.
But there are also so many things happening in the city every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Like today, we sat and had lunch in a park. We spent nothing technically because it was on a gift card, but it would have been like $23
mm-hmm.
on a lunch, and we sat out in the park, and there were, in the park that we were sitting in alone,
two different concerts happening.
Two different concerts happening at the same time on either end of the park.
Yeah.
So, like, there's just always something happening. And so I think that's the difference is when I was living on $17.50 an hour when I first moved to the city.
Mm-hmm.
And we had roommates. Number one, that makes my cost of living much more approachable. Because when I first moved to New York, my apartment was not great. But my rent was like $700. And I was fine. I had a $700 apartment. I was spending easily less than $200. It was like $136 or something for an unlimited Metro card. Could get anywhere in the city on that money. Like, it was just...
I think the thing that's special about New York, especially, but most metro areas, is that you have options.
Yeah.
You have the option to have 5 roommates and have your rent be lowered in that way. You have the option, as much as it will pain your stomach sometimes, to only eat at bodegas and you only do free things and use the park system and use the library system. And those are the ways that you keep your cost of living in check. And that a lot of times are just not accessible in other areas.
Yeah, that's a great point, because like even the Queens library system, for example,
mm-hmm.
There are like 15 different library branches in just Queens.
Yeah.
For the Queens Public Library entire system. So any book that I want to read, I can get delivered to my library that is around the corner from our apartment.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, that's all libraries. Yes, but the abundance and the mass amount of stuff that they have, like in my hometown, if you want a book and your local branch doesn't have it, sorry.
Yeah.
But there's like any book, any show we want to watch, they have all the DVDs of it. Like,
mm-hmm.
There's just so many ways and so many things to do and so much access that comes with living in a highly populated city.
Yeah.
Like this summer, there's going to be free movies in the park, and there's so much to do that, like right now, yes, we live a little bit of a higher cost of living lifestyle
mm-hmm.
because I'm making more money, but
we get to make that choice when we're going to experience lifestyle inflation.
Yeah. And I've never felt deprived living in the city. Even when I was making $17.50 an hour, and working my little butt off, I was still going out and doing things because you have the choice to choose to, I can go to the dive bar down the street, or we can go to like a full 5-course tasting menu. There is both of those lives and everything in between
mm-hmm.
happening all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, my brother lives here. He makes like $18 an hour, and he is perfectly comfortable and fine.
Yeah.
And we go out and we do things all the time, and he, maybe he doesn't go out every single time we go to a nice restaurant, mm-hmm. or maybe we got to pick up the tab for him every once in a while. But on the day-to-day, like, he's very comfortable and fine. His savings is going up, not down. Yeah. So I felt richer being broke here than I did when I was home and broke.
Yeah.
Because I had stuff to do still.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this one's from Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you would ever move out of New York?
Like, maybe, but definitely not in the near future.
No, I don't think even in a permanent fashion at all.
Yeah.
I think, like, if we were to ever be living somewhere else, it'd be, like, part-time.
Yeah.
And we'd have to be, like, my dream has always been, because my entire family still lives in California, my dream has always been to have a house on both coasts.
Mm-hmm.
House on both coasts. So I would love to, like, if we could just buy this apartment and have this apartment forever.
Yeah. And
then also have, like, a small house or something, or, like, a small piece of property somewhere out in California where my family lives. Mm-hmm. I would love that. Yeah. But I would be very surprised if, 10, 15 years from now, we don't live in New York.
Yeah.
We really love it here for all the reasons that we just said. There's just so many options and choices, and you can live the lifestyle that you want to choose, mm-hmm. or some fun mix of any other. Like, there's just so much to do.
Yeah. And I think the other part of that equation is that you and I love the city. And we both had to make that choice that we were going to move here and work our butts off to get into a financial place where we could pack up and move to the city. And the reason that we both did that is because we feel really passionately about the benefits of living here. And especially now that we are at the income level that we're at. We were just talking about this today, that like now is the time where living in New York starts to get really, really good.
Starts to get really, really fun.
Yeah.
Like it's always, I've never felt deprived living here, but like now we get to really enjoy it. Like we have the time, and just honestly, the time is a huge part of it, to like take advantage of all the things the city has to offer. We can go to every museum, we can go to every park, we can see every free movie, we can go to, there's so many like foreign film festivals, there's just so much to do.
Yeah.
And we get to go do all of that now because we have the time and the work-life balance.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So yeah, long story short, no, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. What's the next question?
We're entering our Just for Fun section. Joseph asks, and I'm going to let you start the answer to this one. How did you both become Indianapolis Colts fans?
I'm not.
We're not.
This is a Colts household, but it's because Kaylee likes merch more than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We both love football, but I grew up in a Packers household, and I maintain that label. I am a Packers fan through and through.
She's a Packers fan, and if the Pack isn't playing, then she likes the Giants because her dad liked the Giants. But her mom is a big Packers fan.
Yeah, still a big Packers fan.
Was your grandpa or your grandma? Like, how did that come about?
My grandfather.
So her grandfather was a big Packers fan. Runs in the family.
Yes.
My story is more ridiculous. So I've always really loved football. My dad is a huge football fan. My dad, all growing up until now, is a huge 49ers fan. My brother's a huge 49ers fan. I was stubborn and contrary, and I just didn't want to like the 49ers just because I lived in California. And I was like, I'm going to move to New York anyway. Who cares what football team plays in California, all this stuff. So I wanted a new team, but I really felt I was just really being really stubborn and didn't want to pick a team based on geography. And so one year, it was 2012, the Giants played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. My sister is a huge Patriots fan. I don't like the Patriots. Nobody does. So I was cheering for the Giants just because they were playing the Patriots. And they kept showing Peyton Manning, who, if you don't know, was the quarterback for the Colts, incredible quarterback, Hall of Famer. And he was in the box. This is such a funny story. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this on the internet. He was in the box, and every time they cut to him, he is someone who his team was not in the Super Bowl. He's a football player who's not playing in the Super Bowl. And he was so happy and so proud of his little brother. And I thought it was so nice. So I started watching the Colts play because I thought Peyton Manning was really nice to his little brother. And I kept ever since, I've just been watching the Colts. I will say it was a tough year when Peyton went and played for the Broncos. Yeah. That was hard for me. I was like, am I a Peyton Manning fan or am I a Colts fan? But by that time I was cemented in. So looking forward to Anthony Richardson, seeing what he's got to offer. So looking forward to next season. Love football. I'll watch every football game that's on TV, and Shay hates that. Okay. All right. This one's from Angel. What would you do with your time if you didn't need to work for money?
I think that's an easy question for me to answer because as an actor, I've almost never worked for money. Not a substantial amount of it anyway. And so most of the projects that I pick regardless of what I'm being paid. I'm lucky that I had a really solid day job to get me through whatever I needed to do. And then I was able to take on acting projects that were labors of love rather than monetarily focused. So I'm already doing it.
Shay would just keep doing what she's doing, but she'd quit her day job.
Yeah.
I think about this a lot. There's a lot of stuff I like to do, but I'm like, I couldn't do that all hours of the week, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I love video games. I'm a huge, huge fan of video games. There's so many games I want to play in this world, but also like, I don't want to sit on my couch and play video games for 8 hours a day like it's my job, you know? Yeah. I mean, Dream World, so here's this plan that me and Shay have that's not gonna happen. Shay's getting in at this theater company in
Oh.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
And we're like, here's the dream, right? They leave the theater, the whole building, to us. We fix up the theater. We run a professional theater company. And that's just what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I don't think there's a world where we stop working.
Yeah.
Like working, you know?
We enjoy
having little projects.
Pursuits.
We like doing stuff.
We do.
So I'd probably be running something. I'd be like a full-time volunteer at the local food pantry. I'd be run a dog daycare. I'd just do something. Like I can't ever not be doing something.
Yeah.
I would probably go back and do at least a little bit of theater.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I haven't done because it just doesn't.
I want that for you forever and always.
Shay's trying to get me to do that now.
Kaylee is a really, really talented director. And I would love to facilitate an opportunity for you to direct again at some point.
So I'd probably be doing that. If money was no
object.
No object. We'd keep working, just we'd work different, I think is what it is. Budgeting, general. This one's also from Michelle. There's a bunch of questions from Michelle because Michelle had a lot of questions and I think that's wonderful.
Yes.
What was the moment you decided that budgeting /YNAB was needed? How did you transition that to a YouTube channel? So we'll tackle this one at a time.
Yeah.
When did you start budgeting? Like for realsies budgeting?
I don't know, man. I've been like adding stuff up at the store on my calculator since I was like 9. And I was doing it like because I thought I was being helpful to my mother. It's just something that I've always been very conscious of. So I've been budgeting in one way or another since before it was my money. Basically.
Budgeting other people's money.
Yeah. Well, you know, Mom would get stressed about money and I'd be like, here's the solution. I'm going to add up the total of everything she puts in the cart so that she knows how much she's paying at the register.
I bet she loved that.
Didn't go over very well.
Yeah, I bet she loved that.
No. So I've always been a budget girly. I honestly can't remember a time where I wasn't like counting money in some way.
My senior year of high school took an economics class that was taught by a football coach. So he played the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace Junior for high school students
not Dave
as
Ramsey.
class.
Oh.
So I was in high school and I watched the Dave Ramsey stuff and I was like, this man's a genius. And that ever since then, I got a job right after high school and I was working my way through college and all that stuff. And so I kept like a pen and paper budget from then on because Dave Ramsey told me to. That did not stop me from taking out all the student loans, so not super effective. But I was like Excel sheet, Google Sheets, whatever, like budget of some kind for always. I always did that. Mm-hmm. And then YNAB, I cannot even remember. I think I was on a Dave Ramsey like Facebook group or something, and somebody mentioned it, and I did the free trial, and I was like, it's video games and money. And so I have been with YNAB for...
That is one of the cutest things I've ever heard you say.
It's been... Gosh, I don't even know. Maybe... let me look. I can find out. All right. The only thing I can find is that I connected YNAB to my Alexa in April of 2021. That feels right. I think it was post-COVID when I was like, I need to level up my budget game, which makes sense. It was a bad time. So I leveled up my budget game then, and that's when I started using YNAB. And honestly, I think I was 2 weeks into YNAB, and I was like, well, this is the rest of my life. Like, immediate love at first sight. Second part of the question is, how did you transition that to a YouTube channel? The YouTube channel I started on my own long before I met Shay.
Yeah.
Actually, weirdly early into my YNAB and budgeting. Well, not early in my budgeting journey, but really early into my YNAB journey, I was already like heavy into. Maybe that's what it is. What? Maybe that's where I found YNAB. There's a YouTuber who doesn't post so much anymore, but I wish she would. Zianio Finance. Miss you, girl. I get it. It's a lot of work, but I do miss you. Zianio Finance posted some awesome budget content, and I was trying to get on that level, and she used YNAB, so maybe that's where I first saw it. Oh. Maybe that's where I first found it.
Maybe.
It's been a good couple of years. And so I knew that I wanted to start working on paying off my student loans, or at least trying to get towards that. I was not making all that much money at the time. But I knew that I needed to start taking steps to get towards that. We were in the interest rate pause, like the interest pause of student loans and everything. But I was like, I know that there's not going to be really another opportunity to get ahead like I have right in that moment with no interest on those loans. So I wanted to start saving money towards them. And I kind of felt like I didn't have anyone to really talk to about all this stuff, like the budgeting thing. I talked to my family about it a little bit, but you know, my dad doesn't want to hear about my 6 figures of student loans because it just makes him feel bad. And I was like, I get it, me too. I kind of started the channel just hoping that like people would interact and I could talk to people about it and like get that out, because I also knew that if I wasn't talking to anyone about it and this was just something that was happening in my head and I was just grinding every day trying to get this done, I was not going to keep doing it. I'm super motivated by just like constantly talking through things and figuring it out loud and all that stuff. So I needed, I think, some an accountability buddy that I did not have in my life at the time. And
Accountability buddy?
I said what I said.
Okay, just check.
And I needed an accountability buddy.
Somebody trademark that.
I think it's from a movie. And I didn't have that in my life really at the time. The person who I was dating is not budget forward still to this day. Yeah, I started doing it hoping that I could talk to some people, and that has really taken off lately and really, really been effective.
In a big way.
And I also feel like I have a lot more accountability because I know that if I make a crazy decision, I have to come and tell everyone about it on the internet. And that's starting to have some major consequences when there's over 600 of you. So that's starting to feel a little real. But yeah, so that's why the channel started, was because I just wanted to talk through some stuff, and it felt silly to talk to myself. So I talked to myself and posted it online instead. When Shay came into the channel is when it really started, I think, to get better. Because I was never really, I never showed my face on the channel before Shay was on there. And I think the conversation between us kind of takes it to another level. Mm-hmm. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, that's the budgeting and YNAB journey. And it's going to continue on forever because I love this little app, and the budgeting has changed my life. Another one from Michelle. Can you talk about how you've worked on developing constructive conversation about money? How did you work through that? And when you have money disagreements, how do you work through them?
I think the starting point for us is the same thing that makes our whole relationship successful, in my opinion, which is that we are very clear and very aligned on what our values and goals are. And so anytime we have a conversation, whether it's, framed positively or framed negatively, the context is always that we are on the same page about what our overall values and goals are. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that we are aligned on those things helps us keep whatever small decisions or small disagreements we may have to tackle in perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And around money specifically, like I said, I started this channel before I met Shay at all. So I was already doing this like conversation and dialogue kind of with myself about money and how I feel about it and how we work through things.
Yeah.
So I think that helped a lot in that like there was never any lack of transparency. She knew everything that was going on with my finances way too early in a romantic relationship, truthfully.
Yeah.
Because it's on the internet. Like she watched videos. She can see what I'm doing with my money. She knows where it's going. She knows what's happening. So there was no secrets and there was no hiding anything, and there was no like, it just is out there. It's on the internet. That's part of what this is the transparency. Mm-hmm. So I think that helped a lot. And it took a little while, I think, for her to get over that initial feeling that people have where they're like, ooh, we can't talk about money. That's bad. Yeah. People don't do that. Because I talk about money a lot. On camera, off camera, in the world. I'm texting with her brother right now about financial independence. Like, I talk about money all the time. But I think it's very normal and very reasonable that a lot of people feel like that's a taboo subject and they don't want to talk about it. Yeah. And so it was a conversation we had to have a lot. We were kind of not butting heads, but we were not understanding. I was like, I want to talk about this. And she was like, why? I didn't do anything wrong. And I was like, that's not why I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it because it's something that interests me and I'm passionate about. Yeah. So that was our first, I think, like disagreement, but it wasn't really. It was just in the beginning, it was really hard for her to sit down and have these conversations because it felt like we were having them because something was going wrong. but everything was going great, and I just like to talk about money.
Yeah. I also, you know, I think we all have our special brand of a childhood baggage, you know, of one form or another. Everyone's got their own specific flavor of childhood baggage about money. And that just happened to be mine, was that my family never talked about money unless something was wrong and we were in a fight about it.
I think that's super normal too.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of people's experience of it, especially in childhood, is you only see the negative.
Yeah.
So I think we finally sat down. I have a vague memory of us sitting down and having a conversation about, like, money is not bad. Like, talking about it is not bad.
Yeah.
I'm not coming at it from a place of bad. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I think I just want us to be able to talk about it and make decisions together, because, you know, we had signed a lease together. So we were in it. We were making financial decisions together, and I wanted us to be comfortable. And I think, honestly, that didn't really click in until she started, like, actively recording videos with me and seeing what my process was and why I want to talk through it so much, and seeing that I value her opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. When the whole thing got framed more as an invitation to participate in those decisions, that was huge, because there was a moment at first where it felt like it was accountability with no extra, like, say in what happened at all. And I was like, well, what's the point of that, in my little scared head?
Yeah. And I mean, and it was tough for me, I think, too, because I had such a strong system in place in the way that I did things. So, like, folding her in was hard at first, but I think we figured it out quite well.
Yeah.
And it was just, I mean, practice. We just kept doing it. And we both committed, and we both knew that we were both coming from a place of wanting the same things in the end. And aligning on the big stuff made talking through the small stuff way easier.
Yeah, for sure. I also think there's definitely a level of, like, I knew that if I wanted to have a say in what was going on with the money, it had to be on Friday mornings, when I knew that, you know, rain or shine, you were going to be doing your budgeting.
Yeah.
And having that scheduled and not being able to run away from it or being like, oh, let's talk about this later, was overwhelming at first, but it ended up being a huge positive.
Yeah. Because we have, like, Thursdays I go through and I pay off the balance on our credit cards and reconcile the accounts. Friday morning, we go in and we budget together. Yeah. Every single Friday. And then when I'm drinking coffee in the morning is when I'm entering transactions. And the transactions, I think, are what actually started the initial beginning of us feeling like we were kind of at odds. Is because she would be at work and get a text like, what'd you buy at CVS for $15.93? And she'd be like, what do you mean? I go, what does it matter? And, like, because I need to know where to put it. Yeah. Not because I'm mad. You can spend, we have $75 in the house category. You can spend whatever you want. I just need to know where to put it. Yeah. And I think her seeing the actual physical steps of categorizing stuff in YNAB, she was like, oh, you just genuinely need to know where to put it. I don't care what it is. Just tell me where to put it. We're good. Yeah. And as far as money disagreements, I can't even remember the last time we had a true disagreement. I have one very strong memory of us in a Trader Joe's buying pasta. Do you remember this moment?
Oh my God.
I think money also shows where you differ in values about everything. Because when I was grocery shopping when we first met, I like to think I'm a little bit better now. But when I was grocery shopping when we first met, I was buying the cheapest. I'd be like, okay, we need tuna. What's the cheapest tuna? We need pasta. What's the cheapest noodle? Like, buying the cheapest thing, because that's what you do when you were poor as a small child, you know? Like, I just buy the cheapest thing because that's all we can have. That's all we can afford. And she's like, no, we can get things that are better. Yeah. Because we want them. Yeah. But we didn't.
But I was raised on kind of an opposite philosophy, which is that if it's name brand, it's full of lies. And that if you want, especially with food, if you want quality food, it cannot be name brand.
So it has to be organic, gluten-free, and $12 for a noodle. Yeah. And it didn't jive with me. But we didn't have that conversation about, like, why we were choosing those things. We were just in the store, and I reached for a 99-cent bag of pasta, and Shay reached for a $6 bag of pasta, and we were both like... Yeah. We had just a moment, and honestly, that's the only time I think that we had a moment where, like, we were, like, fighting in the Trader Joe's. We were like, no, you always buy the most expensive pasta. Like, we were, like, arguing in the Trader Joe's. And then we got home, and, like, we paused for a moment. We took a moment and, like, had a conversation. And I'm like, it feels like every single time we're shopping together, you're just seeking out the most expensive thing. And that freaks me out because it feels like we're not going to be able to get everything we need. And Shay is like, it feels like you're buying cheap food that's going to make you die when you're 50. And I was like, the answer is the middle. Like, there's a middle ground of buying good, high quality food that isn't expensive for the sake of it. Like, there's a middle ground, and that's, not argued. Like, even when we argue, it's not so bad. But those were the disagreements that we had the most, not about the money itself, but about like what the money is doing.
Yeah.
Because
it's about the value.
It's about the value
behind the purchase.
Yeah, the things that we value were a little bit different, but I think we've aligned. She has to pull me away from the cheap stuff sometimes still.
Yeah. And Kaylee sometimes has to point to the one that has a sale.
She cannot see sale signs.
There's something in her eye.
Something happened. She went out to an optometrist that turned that off in her eyeballs. She can't see a sale sign. I'm like, that one's also organic, but it's half the price. We're working on it. Okay. Michelle asks, what are your favorite budget-themed resources you follow? Books, podcasts, YouTube channels, etc.
Okay. I actually have one from before I met you.
From before you met me?
Yeah.
What is it?
So before I met you, I followed a YouTube channel called The Financial Diet. And it is run by a woman, Chelsea Fagan, I believe is her name. And she's awesome and she's ridiculously smart. And it's veered more into a lifestyle channel, but she had a lot of really accessible advice and resources and perspectives from people who had all kinds of different incomes. And I found that incredibly helpful because I didn't even know where to start, knowing that I was planning a life around a variable income. And she and The Financial Diet in general really helped me just like wrap my head around like where to start. And they have this one video that I think I might actually still have it saved. That's called like the 20-step checklist for people in your 20s. And you know, it's not like the end all be all of financial checklists, but I was like, you know what, this is all great advice. And I was 20 the first time I saw it. So I was like, okay, let me tackle one of these every 6 months. And by the time I'm 30, I'll be, you know, generally speaking on the right track. And that kind of just got fast tracked because I met Kaylee and I started getting, you know, really on top of it in a different way.
Have you done them all?
Yeah. I went back a couple of months ago and I was like, the checklist is done.
Nice.
It is. So that's my recommendation. Okay,
well, I already mentioned Zia Finance. She doesn't post as much anymore, but every time she does, I get just absolutely giddy. Big fan of her work. I guess I'll just keep on the YouTube channels while I'm there. The Good Kind of Midlife Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Becky, we love Becky.
Yes, Becky.
We're big fans of Becky. She is so approachable, and I enjoy a lot of, when I'm watching YouTube channels, I want to see people who are, you know, in the work, kind of, in like working through building a life and building these habits and steps. So that's where the YouTube channels are going to be focused. So yeah, Good Kind of Midlife Crisis. Becky is a wonderfully kind human, and just watching her go through what she's calling her good midlife crisis is wonderful. There's also, let me actually pull up my Dear Debt. I like Amy's videos. Amy just recently got out of debt like a year ago, and she's been awesome. Daniel Finance is also called Gen Z Finance. It's both things. Midlife Money Moves. Michael is going through, you know, planning for retirement in his 50s, and that's like, just watch, like I said, someone in the work and doing the thing. We love Michael.
He's also a great resource for people who are interested in living in New York City.
Yeah, also a wonderful New Yorker. And then Cody and Val Zielinski. I really enjoy their content as well. Actually, okay, the Zielinskis haven't posted in a couple weeks, but I like them as well. And then as far as podcasts and like larger stream stuff, I like The Money Guy. Big fan of The Money Guy. I watch they do live streams on Thursdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, one of those days. I like The Money Guy quite a lot. Yeah, The Money Guy has the financial order of operations, which I really enjoy. Choose FI. They have a podcast. I think all the podcast episodes are also on YouTube. I actually just saw Brad Barrett in New York City do a speaking engagement recently, which was really awesome. We've recently started listening to the Afford Anything podcast with Paula Pant. We're a big fan of that.
Yep.
I've been getting into reading more financial books recently. Like the Choose a Fi has a book that I love and recommend to people. That's what I'm texting with Shay's brother about right now.
Yeah.
I love that book. It's a great book, but I've not read enough financial books. I want to read like Simple Path to Wealth. I want to read all those things. But I have not got there yet. So hopefully next time I do a Q&A, I'll have better books to recommend. Mm-hmm. But I listen to the Choose FI podcast every day. I started at the very beginning, like last year, and I'm working my way through. I think I just got into 2021. So yeah, that's a work in progress because yes. I consume financial media a lot.
Voraciously.
Constantly. This is the part where we're going to get into budgeting specifics, so I'm going to move into the office. Mm-hmm. All right, also from Michelle.
My God, sorry. Just this lighting is so much better than the other
one. How did you decide on a savings amount for Wyatt, and have you done the math to see how much it will be after 18 years? First of all, you know the answer to that question. You know I've done all the math in the world, and you know I have a spreadsheet about it. So deciding, though, on the savings amount for Wyatt, speaking of the good kind of midlife crisis and Becky, this is something that we just lifted right from her. She saves her nephew's age every week.
In dollars. I don't know what else you'd be saving it in.
Pennies. That's true. So she saves $1 for whatever their age is every week. So when they were born, it'd be like $1 a week, and then $1 a week, and then $2 a week, $3, so on and so forth. We didn't start doing this until very recently. He was already 8 when we started, so we're a little behind. So we're going to try to catch up if we can, but I can show you the little spreadsheet. So yeah, I just did a little spreadsheet saying this is how much it would be, and then the running total. So at the end of 18 years, if we saved that, it'd be just under $9,000. I think I'd like to get it higher than that, but this is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We're also, like I said, kind of behind. So I've been keeping track of it in our high yield savings account, and just so far up to the age of 9, that's how much it would be, and this is what we've put in the high yield savings account for him so far. So we're trucking along. We're going to try to catch up. I think one of our monthly challenges is trying to throw some extra in there and try to catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
Catch up. He doesn't even know. He doesn't know we're doing this. Yeah. He's 9. I just want to be able to do something, like when he graduates high school and is going to college or something, just be able to contribute in some way. Just because no one in my family has ever been able to do that before. Yeah. So that's what I want to just have a bunch of money set aside and just be like, here you go, $10,000. I got you a laptop and all your books or whatever, and be able to do something really big to really set him off on the right foot. Because I didn't have a good laptop until I was in grad school. So there's that. That's how we decided that. Thanks, Becky, again. All the nephews have all the money. All right. And then what FIRE calculator do you use and how? That's obviously...
I know the answer to this question.
This is a much shorter version of the question she actually asked. But yeah, there's a lot of... The thing about the financial independence community is that it's a bunch of nerds who all have different ways of calculating different things. So for anyone who doesn't already know, financial independence is based around this idea that if you have enough money saved that you can withdraw 3 to 4%, depending on your risk tolerance, 3 to 4% of it, and then the rest of it grows by 3 or 4 more percent, because the average rate of return in the stock market's about 7%.
Yeah, I was going to say this is assuming that you're keeping all your money in brokerage accounts and retirement accounts.
Yeah, if you're keeping all your money in the stock market in some way, or in some other thing that is, it could be real estate, whatever, that's earning 7% or more per year in returns. So that way you can withdraw 4%, it grows by 3, so you're not drawing down that money, like that original balance. So then you are then perpetually financially independent. You can live off that money in theory forever or for a long period of time, depending on like the stock market, all these things. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but that's ballpark. So there's it's called the 4% annual, or the 4% rate of return, the 4% rule, 25x. You can hear lots of ways to describe it.
Yeah.
And there's 1,000 ways to calculate your savings rate. There's a billion things to do. But I keep it really simple, and I downloaded a spreadsheet from a website called Budgets Are Sexy, budgetsaresexy.com. Big fan of J Money. I have it. So this is our mega sheet of all things finance. It's a lot. I put this here so that way whenever I show it on the channel, you guys know where it's from. Budgetsaresexy.com. It's a free download. I literally downloaded this as it is. I think I changed the colors. so it would match the rest of my spreadsheet because I am the way that I am. So you put in these little things here, what your balances are on your accounts. These are our balances on our accounts. Last time we updated this, we updated every month or so. Your withdrawal rate, you can change this number. I left it at the standard 4%. Some people feel like 3% or 3.25 is a little more realistic. Whatever you want, that's fine. So this does the math for you. So it adds all this up. It says, okay, if this is going to grow by 7% every year, this is how much. So if you retired right now and you wanted to withdraw 4% of your current balance, you would get $2,090 a year, which is $174.24 a month. And it does all the math. You can see it does all the math here in the spreadsheet. And when you download it, it does all of it for you, which is why I love it so much, because I'm okay at Excel. I'm not that good. Those are easy calculations, but they get harder, I promise. You put what your current age is, and then it does math. See, there it is. It does math, and it says every year this amount is growing by 7%, and this is how much you're adding additionally every year. So I added this little part over here and had this do the math to see what this number is, and I just updated as we change our retirement investments. So my 401k, every week I put in $140. That's 7% of my current income. So 140 pre-tax goes in there. Every year that adds up to this. My company matches the first 5%, so they add another $100. I'm keeping that in because that is an additional investment into my retirement accounts. Shay's Roth IRA, right now we are consistently, sometimes we put more, but consistently putting in $75 a month, so I'll leave that as it is. So we are about like $5 a month into my Roth IRA. Sometimes that's from dividends from my brokerage account, whatever, but it's about $5 a month consistently, and I want to keep track of it because I want to know when I'm hitting this number. So now all the math here, that adds up to us contributing $13,440 a year into our retirement accounts right now, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So it does that. So the spreadsheet then takes that annual rate of return, the additional amount here, and it adds all this together. So it sums the two numbers. It sums this, and it says, okay, it's going to be that times your rate of return, and that equals $70,311.14 when I'm 32. And it does the same thing year over year, year over year, year over year, until it hits this number. When I'm 58 years old, it knows that that will be enough money for us to withdraw $60,000 a year in perpetuity, or for at least a good long time. When we hit this number, it throws this over here. So it tells me that right now, with the current amount we are investing at a 7% rate of return, with a 4% withdrawal rate, we are on track to hit financial independence at 58 years old. When I'm 58. How old will you be when I'm 58?
I will be 52.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You have to input your monthly expenses, and it'll do the math on your yearly. It just multiplies it by 12 for you. But I love saving a step. So my monthly expenses, we track. I have another spreadsheet. This, if you just ballpark your monthly expenses, it'll give you this number, and it'll do it all. But, I am who I am. So I keep track of our monthly or current monthly expenses, all of the stuff that we would need to live beyond right now. This is our current life. That's all I can base it on. And actually round it up a little. So if I put 48, 78, 19, that's how much it costs for us to live. That includes $300 a month for travel, which we're spending. That includes fund money. It's all the things. All of our things. And so then I just take this number. I rounded it up to make it more even, and also because I wanted a buffer. You know me, I love a buffer. And then I just have this here. And then anytime we want to update anything, if we update our expenses, if we change what we're spending on things, we change what we're saving. Like very recently, I upped my 401k contribution from 6 to 7. And so I changed all this, and I updated the numbers, and I look at this once a month or so. And that's how I calculate every month what our FI number is at that moment.
Yeah.
And where we're at. I love this spreadsheet. I also have a lot of other spreadsheets.
So that's the Q&A?
That's it. That's all the questions. It's going to be a long video to edit. I'll edit it on the airplane. It's okay.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So yeah, that's the Q&A. Those are all the questions that we got. Thanks so much for asking questions. If you want to ask more questions in the future, just drop them in. Just put for a future Q&A, and I write them down, and we'll just save them up until we get over 10 again, and then we'll do another one of these and later on down the line. Thanks very much for asking.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all. This was a blast. I'm sure this is going to be super long. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching every week. We love you guys, and we will see you on Friday.
Yes.
Yay.